Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here as we continue on Speed Weeks from the Daytona International Speedway here in Season 4 of the NNSCRA Duracell Cup Series. Getting ready here today to set the rest of the field for this season's Great American Race Daytona 500, as we've already determined three things. We have determined that Jordan Lopez is scheduled to start on the pole position. Rookie Quentin Moore is scheduled to line up on the outside of the front row. He will subsequently be the pole sitter for the second upcoming duel. And Quentin is also the only driver right now that we know as far as a non-chartered driver that will lock himself into Daytona 500 on speed. We still have to determine, though, 5 more positions for non-chartered drivers, and of course for all those chartered drivers we still have to determine where they are going to start in this season's Daytona 500. But Jordan Lopez, the fastest in the pole day qualifying session, scheduled to start on the inside of the front row for the Great American Race, but his goal today, keep that number 38 in one piece, because if he ends up getting caught up in a wreck here during today's festivities, he would have to go to a backup car and thus would forfeit his pole position starting spot. So the defending champ Jordan Lopez definitely off to a good start this season. We'll see if he can maintain his pole position here today. Let's go down trackside, get those famous words in motorsports, and get ready to go duel racing at Daytona.
Drivers, start your engines. Is that okay?
Well, I'm certain that these drivers here today, especially these non-chartered drivers, very nervous. I'm a little nervous up here in the booth off of what we've seen so far this week at Daytona, the type of racing we've seen, and obviously the guy that's given the command to start the engines is nervous as well, but that's to be expected when you're at a track as hollowing as Daytona International Speedway. Check down in the description below for your official starting lineup for today's race. As mentioned, there are going to be 3 drivers that transfer in from this duel to the Daytona 500 due to the fact that Quentin Moore is over in Duel 2, as well as former champion Chris Dollerton, who does have a championship provisional to make his way into the Daytona 500 field should he need it. So we definitely know 3 drivers will transfer in here today in the first duel, and it'll be the highest 3 finishing non-chasers. Harrison Ponder lines up on the outside of the front row. He's one of the drivers we'll keep an eye on. Also Joshua Osborne in the 56, Dawson Wise in the 81, Will Goss in the 20, RJ Bishop in the 12, Michael Roode in the 00, Adam Sampsell in the 13, Laura Chung in the 27. And you gotta go a ways back before you get to Arthur Xavier in the 24, Tristan Allen in the 15, Pedro Lucas in the 41, Justin Dearborn in the 07, and Joshua Taurus in the 16 with Seth Cole in the 25. Those are the drivers that are going to be battling for those 3 transfer spots into this season's Great American Race. For all the other charter drivers, obviously with this being the first duel, this is going to determine the inside of each row from row 2 on back to row 21 for this season's 500. And that's what those drivers are going to be racing for. Some of these guys like Shelton and R Acosta, they'll be trying to maintain a good starting position in the Daytona 500 grid. Whereas guys at the back, they'll be trying to improve their starting position as the first duel of the season here at Daytona is green. Let's roll! Harrison Ponder to the lead on the outside line, 3 wide behind him. Joshua Osborne, Jordan Lopez, and Jessica Shelton for a brief moment. They're 3 wide further back with Belding on the bottom. A rookie last season, now alongside of a rookie this season, and RJ Bishop, who's put in the middle. Dawson Wise up topside in the 81. And at the front, side by side between 2 non-chartered machines, Evan Gardner Motorsports entry of Joshua Osborne alongside of Otter Island Motorsports entry of Harrison Ponder. Move Osborne to the race lead, and here comes Ryan Butcher and R Acosta with big runs. Butcher with some help might be going for the lead here in the first corner. Looks like we've got a driver that's already lost touch with the field. With them racing side by side, he should be able to draft back up, that being the 0-1 of Jack Mitchell, last year's regular season champ. I don't know what's going on with him unless he's maybe adopting the Benny Watson school of thought from the Clash when Watson ran towards the back in the early stages of the race. A wreck happened, he worked his way through, eventually went on to win that event. And drag race at the line. Looks like visibly Osborne won that battle. Let's see if the ticker agrees with me, and it does, as they are still 3 wide all the way back through this pack. That's Michael Roode down on the bottom with another Toyota Camry behind him, and that is Will Goss in the 20. And right now, Will's trying to get himself ahead of the 79 of Harrison Ponder to get into that third and final transfer spot. Right now, the transfer spot's held by the 56, 79, and 00. But we're only 2.5 laps into this 17-lap duel, so there's still a long ways to go. Pit road should not come into play in this race either. They should all be good to go on fuel, so it's really just about you got what you got and try and position yourself as best you can. Look at these non-chartered drivers working their way up the inside line. Will Goss, we already mentioned, but he's bringing A Sampsell. Also his teammate Tristan Allen, Pedro Lucas there, and Joshua Torres. They're all working their way up here towards the front of the field, trying to get themselves into a transfer position. RJ Bishop still stuck in the middle there in the 12 car. Has not been able to find his way either to the inside or the outside line. Stuck in the sucker hole along with Laura Chung in the 27, Jacob Thibodeaux in the 33. As up front, they continue side by side between Ryan Butcher and Joshua Osborne. That inside line is able to get a nice run into the entry of the corner, but then from the center off, the outside line kicks back in. And with them 3 wide back here, it looks like Jordan Lopes having to give a little bit of extra room. That might be breaking up that outside line just the least little bit. Here comes Will Goss leading a third line down on the inside along with teammate Tristan Allen. So the DCW Toyotas working together, trying to see if they can work their way to the front. Both of them looking to make, talking about Goss and Allen, looking to make their first Duracell Cup Series starts, and it would be in the Great American Race. Should mention that in our rookie class this season, no rookie is in a chartered ride. So in order to win Rookie of the Year this season, it's going to be all about making each week's main event through qualifying. And of course, this season, Dawson Wise driving the number 81 for Michael Norman Motorsports. He's their rookie this season, and for the past 2 years, Michael Norman Motorsports has been the team where the Rookie of the Year has come out of. Cody Lamas back in Season 2, and then, of course, Austin Colano last year. 3 wide, 3 rows deep at the front of the field as Will Goss, with help from Tristan Allen, getting a big push down the back straightaway. Not enough, though, to get to the left rear quarter panel of the Gatorade Toyota of Ryan Butcher, but they are still 3 wide back there. Seth Coles worked his way up into the top 10 there, the Liberty University Chevrolet. Also Justin Dearborn in that 07, the white and purple car back there. And you've also got Ryan Brommer in the 9 machine. Whoa, contact between Michael Roode and Will Goss there in the tri-oval. That's a place you don't want to see them leaning on each other. But both of the, or 2 of the 3 Bulldog Motorsports cars did not qualify well during pole day qualifying earlier on this week. And Ryan Brommer trying to improve on that now as he's trying to work his way up through the field. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting the feeling that we may see a wreck take place here momentarily. Just the way these guys are racing. 3 wide, about 6 rows deep. As Osborne continues with help from Harrison Ponder to do that outside line to get the good run off the corner. Right now, though, it is side by side for that third and final transfer spot between Will Goss and Michael Roode. Roode's got some help from the 13, or make that the 16 rather, of Joshua Taurus. Meanwhile, Will Goss has drafting help from Tristan Allen. You've got about, it looks like 8, 9 drivers that are non-chartered machines up inside this top 10 right now. So you think that they realize the situation and the sense of urgency? You have Osborne, Ponder, Tristan Allen, Will Goss, A Sampsell, Seth Cole, Justin Dearborn, and Joshua Torres all up here inside of the top 10 as they run right now. But it looks like the 56, a Dodge, and the 79, a Toyota, have worked out an alliance here where they are pretty well committed to that outside line. I'm actually really surprised as well that Jordan Lopes in the 38 is still up here in this lead pack. Lopes has got the luxury that, as long as he keeps his car in one piece, he's going to start on the pole for the Daytona 500. So he could have taken the green, dropped to the apron on the back straightaway, and brought it to the garage area, and he still would be your pole sitter for this upcoming weekend's Daytona 500 event. But he wants to make a statement here today. Just has to hope that it's not going to be a statement that's going to cost him a prime starting position in this season's Daytona 500 race. Charles Belding back there in the 91, possibly in danger of losing the draft. One driver that has lost the draft up at this point is Jack Mitchell in the 01. That is not good for him, because as things stand right now, if this is where he were to finish, if we don't have a wreck or something, he is going to be starting shotgun for the Great American Race back in the 41st position. Of course, at these super speedways, it's not about where you start, it's where you finish. So maybe Jack Mitchell, who was not actually that fast in pole day qualifying either, maybe his plan is to start at the rear of the field for the Daytona 500. And of course, with how far back he is, he would certainly miss a wreck should it take place up here ahead of him. Osborne clear for the lead. Let's see if he moves down in front of Ryan Butcher. If he stays up there with Harrison Ponder, looks like he's going to try the best of both worlds. Give both lanes a little bit of draft here. Question is which lane gets the run down the back straightaway. He'll move back up to the top side there with Harrison Ponder. That third and final transfer position right now belongs to Michael Roode in the 00. And then behind him, you've got them three wide as Ryan Butcher onto pit road in the 78. And I don't know if this is regularly scheduled or not. As I said, I didn't think these drivers were going to have to pit. They should have been able to make it this entire race on what they had in the tank. But J Shelton is also on pit road. So this duel may come down to fuel strategy. 12 laps seems awfully early to me for these drivers to be hitting pit road. But then again, it is CTS physics, so maybe I was only calculating for cup physics. As Joshua Osborne is going to lose maybe the race lead to Harrison Ponder. He left the top side. Ponder stays up there. And now Will Goss on the inside, and here come a whole bunch of others to pit road. Oh my goodness, this is going to be interesting as we've got about maybe 20 cars trying to hit pit road this lap, including Osborne, Will Goss, Tristan Allen, A Sampsell, Michael Roode, and others. It's like about maybe 8 or 9 drivers stay out, including Ponder, Lopes, A Sampsell, Ryan Acosta, Dawson Wise, and then you've got a couple of stragglers back here in L Chung, Johnny Gardner, Jacob Thibodeaux, and Mitchell Collins, who we will undoubtedly see on pit road this time. This is something that those drivers in the second duel are going to have to keep an eye on too, because this may be something they'll have to deal with. Coming to pit road and getting it down to 55 miles per hour. Boy, Harrison Ponder hard on the brakes there, and I would assume this is just a fuel-only stop for these drivers. I don't see why you would even bother to spend extra unnecessary time on pit road taking tires. So we're going to watch these guys right here and see what they do. You see there's no jack going up on either the left or right side. It is gas and go. Get it full of fuel, just enough to make it to the end, and then down and away. Extended stay for the 38 of Jordan Lopes. Bit of a slow stop for him. Of course, he's already going to be starting on the Daytona 500 pole, so he doesn't have to worry about this race. But let's see what happens here with Harrison Ponder in the 79. Is he going to be able to get out ahead of all those other drivers that came to pit road earlier? We're looking here at two of them, in Joshua Osborne and Tristan Allen, the 56 and the 15. They've got a big run here coming down the back straightaway, but looks like they may cycle out only around maybe third, fourth position. As this is an important battle right here. They're trying to get around L Chung and A Sampsell, who I believe would currently be in the second and third final transfer spots. As Harrison Ponder is going to hit the line for 3 laps to go here in our first dual race. Don't forget, folks, this is only the first one. We got a second one coming up right after this. You're not going to want to miss that. as we're going to be finding out pretty much the final driver to transfer into the Daytona 500 field should Chris Dollerton not finish in one of the top 3 positions. But Ryan Acosta looking for the lead here. He wants to start third for the Great American Race, the former champ. He's alongside of Harrison Ponder, but Ponder now has some drafting help from Laura Chung on that outside line, one of the 2 entries out of Mills Motorsports, and that U.S. Rangers Ford Mustang. Now that outside line loses momentum. Here comes Joshua Osborne with help from J Taurus. 2 laps to go here at Daytona. Right now it's Osborne, Taurus, and Ponder all in transfer spots. You've got the lap machine of Jack Mitchell in the middle of all this. He could play spoiler. And just on the outside looking in, Tristan Allen, Laura Chung, Michael Roode, and A Sampsell. Can they get up here to these guys? Here's the battle for the transfer spot. Tristan Allen to the inside of Joshua Osborne. And he will clear him for the spot. So now move Tristan Allen into a transfer position. Harrison Ponder going to move into a transfer position now, as he'll get around the 56. But it's still 1 more lap to go as Joshua Taurus, who started near the rear of the field for this duel, is out in front showing the way. The Domino's Pizza Toyota Camry out of Second Chance Motorsports has received the white flag and is looking to make his first Duracell Cup Series start in the Great American Race. Back here to the battle for the transfer spot, though. Ponder is in the 2nd position. Laura Chung in the 3rd spot. Behind them, though, can anyone get to the 27? As now it's going to be Taurus stuck on the outside line. Here comes Ponder for the race lead. Joshua Taurus may end up losing out on making it into the field if he gets kicked way up there, which he does. Laura Chung trying to go by. For that would be for 2nd. Joshua Osborne there as well. Harrison Ponder's going to win here today in the first duel of Daytona. At the line, it's going to be Laura Chung and Joshua Taurus that are also going to transfer into the Great American Race. So those 3 rookies will make their first starts of the season and their first Duracell Cup Series point-paying starts of their careers. And how about Otter Island Motorsports this season? Benny Watson winning the Clash. Harrison Ponder, his rookie teammate, winning the first duel of the day. These Otter Island Motorsports Toyotas have been really good with their Super Speedway program, and now Benny Watson's actually going to have a teammate with which he'll be able to work in the Daytona 500 rather than being the only single car entry out there. Clean and green the entirety of this race, and hopefully we'll see the same thing in the second duel as Harrison Ponder, Laura Chung, Joshua Taurus finish 1, 2, 3 in the finishing results. First, second, and third of the non-charter drivers as well. So they will all take part in the Daytona 500, and all 3 of them will have really good starting positions as well, as Ponder will start 3rd, Chung will start 5th, and Taurus will start 7th for the Great American Race. Ryan Acosta will be 9th inside of the top 10. But the drivers that are going to be going home and having to try again next week to make it into the main event include Joshua Osborne, Tristan Allen, Michael Roode, A Sampsell, Justin Dearborn, Will Goss, Dawson Wise, Seth Cole, Pedro Lucas, also RJ Bishop, Arthur Xavier, and those are the drivers that will not make it into the Daytona 500. All the other drivers are chartered machines. They will be starting the Daytona 500, but a couple of guys that are going to be towards the back of the pack include Zach Rogers, Dylan Young, Carson Gum, Charles Belding, Jack Mitchell, who did not have the best of performances here today in their duel. And Jordan Lopez, he finished all the way back in 16th, but it doesn't matter. He kept his car in one piece, so he will still be the pole sitter for this upcoming weekend's Daytona 500 race. But Harrison Ponder, Laura Chung, Joshua Taurus, those are 3 drivers we know that have now locked themselves in the Daytona 500 field. We know Quentin Moore is locked into the field on time. We also know that Chris Dollerton has a championship provisional if necessary at his disposal. Question is, though, as we get ready for our second duel, who is going to get the final transfer position into the Great American Race Daytona 500 of the non-chartered machines? Don't go anywhere. We've only determined a couple of drivers that are going to be in the 500. We got to determine the rest of the starting lineup for the Daytona 500 as duel number 2 is coming up next in just a moment. Well, it would almost seem appropriate that a driver out of a team called Second Chance Motorsports would be scheduled to start the Daytona 500 in second place, as Quentin Moore, who was second fastest in pole day qualifying earlier on this week, is subsequently the pole sitter for our second duel race. His goal, much like Jordan Lopez's was back in the first duel, just keep that Aris Toyota Camry as clean as possible. Do not have to go to a backup car and forfeit your front row starting position. So he's locked into the 500 on speed as a non-chartered driver. The driver starting kitty corner to him is Chris Dollerton in the 83. Dollerton, the former champion back from Season 1, has a championship provisional at his disposal if he does not transfer his way into the 500 through this duel, which means with the 66 and the 83 guaranteed spots in the 500, only one other driver will be transferring into the Great American Race from this duel here today. But it's Quentin Moore and Charles Sandfer who got not only his first but second career wins last season, bringing us to the start-finish line, and second duel of the day is green. We'll try and document all the non-playoff drivers, or sorry, the non-charter drivers, though, that are going to be trying to get that final transfer position into the Great American Race during the course of this 17-lapper. One driver had to start at the rear of the field for failing pre-race inspection, and that was Keith Batson in the 39, though that may not actually hurt him because of the fact that it's a 23, I think, car field. You can work your way from the back to the front very easily, plus the fact he's back there to try and help his teammate Mike Wiley in the 93 work his way up into a transfer spot, as we nearly had a caution on the first lap. They were 4 wide back around Nathan Orman's Burger King Challenger, but they settle it out to 3 wide, and we do somehow remain green, so everybody can kind of breathe a sigh of relief there, as Cole Baker, former Daytona 500 winner from Season 2, out in front and pacing the field. And Quentin Moore might like that right now because of the fact that he would have a Toyota Camry that would start behind him on the outside of the front row and the second row when the green flag flies for the 500. As Dollerton trying to transfer his way into the 500 just through this duel. If he can do that, then he would still have those 5 championship provisionals to use at a later date. So he's guaranteed 5 starts this season, but he'd like to kind of keep those provisionals in his hip pocket if he could. Dylan Poteet right now would be in the final transfer spot as things run. Driver out of Pigeon Racing, another driver making his return to the series. Chris Dollerton, of course, ran in Seasons 1 and 2 for Rock and Ranch Racing. Dylan Poteet drove in the first season for Michael Norman Motorsports. Now back in the number 31, a different looking number 31, however. He ran the RCR 31 for Michael Norman Motorsports back in Season 1, now in the Turner Scott 31 for Pigeon Racing. And he's got a couple of guys trying to battle him for that final transfer spot as they run right now. That's Natan Amiedo in that black and yellow Pennzoil Ford out of No Limits Racing. And right behind him is that Subway number 70 Toyota Camry of Samet Ozkan, who is a teammate to Quentin Moore in the 66 and would love to have at least 2 of the Second Chance Motorsports cars make it into the 500. Further back, you got Taylor Gerdes there, the 3rd entry this season for Bulldog Motorsports. That's been a 2-car team ever since the inception of Duracell Cup Series. But they now bring on a 3rd ride and a rookie in Taylor, who now is going to get a challenge from the inside, and that is the 3rd entry out of KB Racing Enterprises, Daniel Voiles, in the number 63 Aero Ford Mustang. Up front, though, they are jostling back and forth between Cole Baker, Austin LaPlante, and Chris Dollerton for that race lead. Dollerton holding the spot for the moment. Dollerton signing on with Michael Norman Motorsports this season. And obviously, he's got to really be good in non-charter qualifying in order to make sure he can maybe battle for the championship. There has been a rule that has been put out there in place for the non-charter drivers that if they manage to be up in the top 30 in the point standings by the end of the regular season and have a victory, they are locked into a playoff position because NNSCRA has taken into consideration the fact that they have to qualify their way into the races each and every week through the non-charter events. And so if they can at least manage to make enough starts, have a win, and be up in the top 30 in points by the end of the regular season, no questions asked, they will have a playoff position and be able to battle for the championship. Matthew Rodriguez. I think he might be the driver in the field with the longest winless streak, stretching all the way back to Season 1 at Arizona Speedway. He's been with Michael Norman Motorsports. He went to his own single-car Toyota team at Con Autosports last season, now still with Con Autosports, but manufacturer changed from Toyota to Chevrolet. As Daniel Voiles now to his inside 3 wide. Right now, Voiles would be in the final transfer position to make it into the 500, with Chris Dollerton out in front leading this thing. And these drivers, these rookies, everybody having to remember the fact that if we do not see a caution here in this duel, we saw green flag pit stops really be the deciding factor into who made it into the 500 back in the first duel race. How about Keith Batson there in the 39, proving that you do not have to worry about where you start at Daytona, because you can work your way to the front. He started shotgun in the field. He's already up inside of the top 5, third on that inside line, looking to move up to third place here by the time they get over into turns 1 and 2. And right behind him, you've got Zach Stoltz in the 44, single car entry there. The Z's Custom Diecast Challenger. Right behind him, Mike Wiley in the 93. Out of KB Racing Enterprises. Some of the non-charter drivers we haven't heard from yet today that we may very well before this race is over is Kyle Matthews 3 wide for the lead with Dollerton and Voiles, but Dollerton with help from LaPlante will hold the spot. There's the second entry of the season out of Haas Racing, Brad Stouffer in the number 80 Snickers Dark Toyota Camry. A little bit further back is where we'll find Dylan Schwallenberg, the DCW entry. Both of his teammates failed to make the 500 in the first duel, Will Goss and Tristan Allen, but they were close. Right now, Cole Baker, the only driver out of that team that is scheduled currently to make the 500, but we may not have seen the last of this Advanced Auto Parts Toyota Camry of Schwallenberg. And further back here, right at the tail end of the field, I don't know if this is wise strategy, but that is Evan Gardner's Motorsports entry of Rob Evans. We saw his teammate Joshua Osborne just miss out on making the 500 earlier in the first duel race. So Rob Evans does not want to make it 0-2 for that team, but question is, when does he start making his charge? Is he currently just kind of riding there in the draft at the tail end of the field? As Keith Batson is going to take the race lead at the line away from Chris Dollerton. He's getting some help from Zach Stoltz in the 44, and now here comes his rookie teammate Mike Wiley in the 93. So teammates lined up 1-2 on that inside line. Keith Batson, I think this is exactly what he wants to do. He wants to pull that 93 up there and get him into a transfer spot to make it into the 500. And right now, that transfer spot is under contest between Wiley in the 93, Stoltz in the 44. As Dollerton continuing to lead this race, right now would be into a transfer position and would not have to rely on a provisional. Now remember, we saw drivers ducking onto pit road somewhere around laps 13 to 15 back in the first duel. These guys going to do the same. There's another driver I see kind of looming back there at the rear of the field, and that's Benny Watson, the 75. Remember back in the Clash earlier on this week when he ran at the rear of the field for the first half of that event, then made his charge in the second half? Well, we know that the Otter Island Motorsports cars are really good here at the Super Speedway this week because we had Benny Watson win the Clash. Harrison Ponder won his duel just moments ago. And so can Watson maybe pick up the third checkered flag of the season for that small Outer Island Motorsports team without us even yet getting to the Daytona 500? Dollerton continues to show the way there. We know that Michael Norman Motorsports also brings together a great super speedway package. As Quentin Moore, we saw Jordan Lopez in the first duel continue to run up here towards the front. Quentin Moore has decided that this is getting a little too hairy for him. He's at the tail end of the field, just preserving that second starting position in the Great American Race. Very smart move there for the non-chartered driver. As Ford's at the front, Dollerton on the top side, Batson in the middle, Mike Wiley was on the bottom, as now Batson moves down to get the draft off the 93. And within the next 2 laps, we're going to see these drivers ducking onto pit road. The window is open for these drivers to make it the rest of the way on fuel. It's a question, though, of how many friends will these guys have when they come to pit road. We saw a big pack of cars come to pit lane, about 20 cars in total for the first group back in the first duel, and then there were about 9 stragglers, so we'll see if a lot of drivers come to pit road this time or not. They're 3 wide, about 4 rows deep. I don't know how you're going to be able to assemble a formation to get onto pit road when you're all racing side by side that close in rows of 3. And I would have to assume Chris Dollerton's going to be one of the first we'll see ducking to pit road, because he's been out in front for most of this duel, so he's been using up the most fuel. And here we go. They're coming to pit road, and they're going to start wrecking. Coming to pit road, Matthew Rodriguez spun by Kyle Matthews. That'll bring out a caution right in the middle of what would have been pit stops, I do believe. Is the caution out? No, we're still green. As Rodriguez sits in the middle of the track, we are still green. How are we still green? Rodriguez got to get that car refired. He does. Green flag is still out. I can't believe it. I thought the caution was going to come out, but I guess everything took place below the racing surface. And when Rodriguez spun back up the track, it did not have any oncoming traffic for NNSCRA officials to throw the caution. So we're still green. These pit stops are still green flag pit stops, as LaPlante, Stoltz, and Baker stayed out. They're going to come to pit road this time, it looks like. And Daniel Voiles is going to stay out in the 63. Also Patrick Smith and Jose Mills, the most winningest driver in the Duracell Cup Series. There's Keith Batson in the 39 with a lot of damage. You'll get to see, courtesy of the NHA split cam, of what just happened here. That did not bring out a yellow. But my gracious. Patrick Smith just took the lead away from Daniel Voiles. But these drivers are still going to have to hit pit road, and we're going to have to see who the lead cycles around to, which with what would be in the vicinity of 2 laps to go here in our second Gatorade duel. Here comes Patrick Smith, rookie last season. Daniel Voiles and Jose Mills in as well. So who does the race lead cycle around to? I think we'd have to look at that 48 perhaps of Austin LaPlante, 2-time winner from last season. Zach Stoltz would be coming out in second. And here come James Qualls, Jesse Turner, Chris Dollerton, and Natan Amiedo. These are the guys that were already on pit lane. Rob Evans, where'd the 65 come from? He's got a chance to maybe make it into the 500 now. Benny Watson's in this group, also with Mike Wiley, as they're trying to reel in the top 2. LaPlante crosses the line. It's 2 laps to go. There's Mills. There's Patrick Smith coming off pit road. LaPlante's going to easily pass the 77. He'll go to the race lead. Stoltz will move into second place. But here comes the cavalry with Qualls, Amiedo, Turner, Evans, Watson, and Dollerton breathing down their necks. Look at the run by the 36. Big momentum down the back straightaway for Natan Amiedo. He's looking to the inside of Zach Stoltz. That's for the transfer spot into the 500. Rob Evans right there as well in the 65. As LaPlante looks in his rearview mirror, now we'll have to look to driver's left. He's going to be alongside Natan Amiedo as they both receive the white flag here in the second duel at Daytona. Natan Amiedo with the race lead, trying to transfer his way into the 500, trying to be the first Brazilian to make a Duracell Cup Series start. Benny Watson, our Clash winner, now moves into second. Third place behind him, it's going to be a battle between LaPlante and Mike Wiley. If Watson can make a move on Natan here going into 3, he might be able to help the 93 try and transfer into the Great American Race. Amiedo going to move low on Benny Watson. Watson's going to get a big run here out of turn 4, though. Let's see if he can go 2 for 2 in starts this season, winning the Clash and the Duel. Matthew Rodriguez going to block him, but it's going to be Natan Amiedo winning Duel number 2. He's into the 500 this season. Benny Watson brings it home second, and the first man out is going to be Mike Wiley in the 93, who's going to finish in the 3rd position. And because of the fact that Quentin Moore is in on speed, Chris Dollerton does not transfer in through transfer spot. He gets the championship provisional. Only one driver, and that is Nathan Amiedo, is going to be into the 500 here through this duel, racing his way in with the victory here today at Daytona. Standings should be official, and they are. Nathan Amiedo gonna pick up the victory. He's into the 500 along with Quentin Moore and Chris Dollerton in this duel. Benny Watson's going to finish in second. He was actually really slow in pole day qualifying, but with him finishing in second place, he's going to be starting, I believe it's sixth for the Daytona 500. So both the Otter Island Motorsports cars are going to be up inside of the top 10 for the start of the Great American Race. Mike Wiley, though, so close to transferring, but he is going to have to try and qualify in next week, as he will not be into the 500 this season. He's going to be third. Other drivers that do not transfer in as well include Rob Evans in the 65, Zach Stoltz the 44, the 69 of Taylor Gerdes, Brad Stouffer in the 18, also Dylan Schwallenberg, Samet Ozkan, Dylan Poteet, Daniel Voiles. And those are the drivers that will not transfer into the 500. But that does it here from Daytona for the duels. We now know the 6 drivers that will be transferring in to the Great American Race. And the field for the 500 is now set in stone. So we got to finish out this weekend. Points-paying races begin now with the 4th annual run of the Duracell Cup Series Daytona 500. That's going to be coming up next here on the NNSCRA Sports Channel. Hope you guys enjoyed today's duels from Daytona, though. If you did, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and become part of the crew today. We've shown you full finish results, and we will now show you what the starting lineup for the Daytona 500 will look like heading into our upcoming event. It's sure to be a wild one. Thanks for tuning in. I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching a production of NNSCRA Offline Racing at its best. So long from Daytona.